Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and today we have a preview of Aeon's End Beyond the Breach. Hey there gamers, it's Professor Meg here, and welcome back to the Board Game Co channel. Today we have a preview of Aeon's End Beyond the Breach by Indie Boards and Cards. Thank you to the sponsor of this video, and please keep in mind this is a prototype copy, so everything you see in front of you is rules, components, and things like that subject to change. But that being said, Aeon's End is an existing game, so some of these things that you will see are mechanisms that are tried and true, and this is fully integratable with all of the other Aeon's End content, but this is going to be a standalone game, so you can get this and have this to be everything that you need to be able to play Aeon's End. Now, Aeon's End is going to be a cooperative deck building game where players are going to be working with a fixed market of cards that they're going to be purchasing to be deck building. But there are two things that make Aeon's End extremely unique. First of all, when you are creating your discard pile, you're going to intentionally set specific cards. You do have certain phases of when you discard things, such as casting spells at the beginning of your turn, but you do have agency within the cards played within those particular phases of where they go in the discard pile. And that really matters because you do not shuffle your discard pile. After drawing all of your cards from your deck, and when you would need new cards to draw from, you will flip over your discard pile and have that create your new draw deck, but you will not have changed the orientation of the cards. You won't shuffle at all. They'll be in the order that you're expecting them to come in. So that's going to add a strategic element of the game where it's going to make the game move a lot faster. You're going to know exactly what to expect, but that's going to make you think you're able to do a lot of things until the Nemesis comes and really throws things for a loop for you, because one of the other very interesting parts of the game is going to be the turn order deck. So the turn order deck is going to be shuffled at the beginning of every round, and that's going to determine whose turn it is. So for example, if we were going to flip this over here, you can see that the Nemesis would go first this round and they would take their turn. Now, I'm going to go over what turns look like and things like that, but I just wanted to note two of the really big differences here is that you are not shuffling your discard pile when you are then turning it into your deck, and also for your turn order, it's going to change every single round. Now, this is going to cause certain things like the Nemesis having 2 turns in a row, and the Nemesis is even able to have 4 turns in a row if they go last at the end of a round and then first at the beginning of a round. But that also means that you are able to stack your different player actions depending on who is able to do what and set up other players to be able to really do some damaging blows when the Nemesis has that cooldown period, because you know that you have quite a few turns before this will be shuffled and it would be their turn again. Now, that's going to be very important because some of these cards that you can purchase will affect other players. This is a cooperative deck building game, so you are affecting not only your own mage, but the other mages around you to hopefully defend Gravehold, which you are hoping to keep all of that as much health as possible here, but also ultimately taking down the Nemesis at hand. Now, that may seem like there's a lot going on, but wait, there's more. There are friends and foes, and there are new ones added in this edition that you're able to play with, and they're going to have friends add good things, and foes, guess what, will add bad things. There are other things that you're able to play as, such as banners, which are going to be added to your initial deck, or things like trinkets that players are able to gain throughout the game. Now, on top of that, this edition is going to add new cards that you're able to play with, that you're able to purchase in the market, and there are going to be new mages that you're able to play with, having all unique abilities that you're able to add to any existing content you may have, or be a way for you to get into the game itself. For example, here you have the mage Wolf, and Wolf is going to be unique because they do not have a starting breach. Normally players have a breach that they would start with, and that's how they're able to cast spells. You're able to slot 1 spell per turn, and once it is cast, you're able to slot a new spell into that breach, but breaches are how you're going to be primarily playing spell cards from your hand. Now, Wolf does not start with one, so you have to start paying to be able to open these different breaches, but once you're able to do so, you will start off having your 3rd breach being able to do an additional damage and your 4th breach as well, so you'll be able to pack a punch with this character. Now, they also have special cards that they're going to be starting off with, such as Doom Howl, and Doom is going to be something that is unique to Wolf. So when you cast this, Wolf would gain 2 Doom and deal 3 damage. So they would gain 2 Doom to their character card, or they're able to lose 1 Doom as well. Now that's very important because if this character ever reaches 5 doom, they would do 10 damage to the enemies, but also 10 damage to themselves. Now you can see why keeping an eye on your doom can be extremely important for this character, because they also have another card that interacts with it, such as a Doomstone. So this one is you would gain 3 purchasing to be able to buy cards from the market that round, but you would also gain 2 doom for that, or you are also able to lose 1 doom. So both of these cards offer you the option to lose a doom, never hitting that 5 threshold, but you are able to also gain doom to gain the benefit. Now, this character also has their main phase ability that once they're powered up, they're able to activate to lose all of their doom, and then any ally draws a card. Repeat this for each doom lost this way. So if you're able to remove 4 doom off of yourself, one of your allies is able to draw 4 cards. And where this is a cooperative game and the turn order can really matter, you can choose someone who you know hasn't yet had a turn yet that round to draw a bunch of cards before it's their turn. Now, in Aeon's End Beyond the Breach, players are going to be playing through different narrative arcs. So you're going to choose the narrative story that you want to be playing through, and then you'll set up the game accordingly, and you'll have the different nemesises that you're playing against and the deck that comes with them and why they're doing the different things that they're doing. Now, as I said, you're able to add the friends and foes and things like that to also add a bit more to what you're playing throughout the game. But if you'd like to see a lot more about how this all works, especially with the narrative elements in the game, be sure to check out the gameplay on the channel. The heart of Aeon's End is going to be the deck building that players are doing throughout the game and how they are approaching that together cooperatively, because everyone is going to be building out their different decks based on the mages that they're playing and their different strengths to hopefully be able to take out the nemesis. So in order to do so, players are going to first at the beginning of their turns be able to cast any spells that they have prepared in their breaches. That's how you cast your spells, is that you're kind of delayed a turn, so you have to first play it into your breach, and then at the beginning of the next turn you are then able to cast them and then place them into your discard pile. Now after that, players are able to do a whole bunch of things on their turns, such as their extra abilities and things like that, but you're going to mainly be playing your cards to be able to gain cards from the market. Now, Wolf does have this Doomstone available to give them 3 to be able to purchase from the market, but they also have 3 crystals available to add to that as well, adding to a total of 6, meaning that they're able to upgrade their deck this turn. So they would be able to use these cards to purchase one of the ones over here, and depending on the color that you can see, it will change depending on the card that it is. So for example, all of these yellow cards here are going to be spells, and the blue ones are going to be relics. The ones at the top are going to be gems, and gems are basically going to be able to add additional gems to your purchasing when you are having future turns, enabling you to get better and better cards. Because, for example, this spell only costs 4, but this one over here will cost 8. Now, for an example of a spell card, here we have Megaflux Slice. So when you cast the spell, you are able to deal 2 damage and gain 1 pulse token. So you would gain 1 of these tokens, but if you are able to lose 3 of these, meaning that you have already gained 3, when you cast this, you are able to lose the 3 to deal 7 damage instead. So you can see where this particular spell, especially if you have multiple copies of it, will enable you to gain these pulse tokens and then spend them to make the spell stronger and stronger the more times it recurs throughout your deck. Now, another example would be Stone Fury Eruption. This one, when you cast it, you'll deal 4 damage. However, each ally who has a Stone Fury Eruption in their discard pile gains 1 charge. So each time that this spell is cast, it will be able to allow other allies to gain charges, making them able to use their special ability, and you can see where this really cooperatively balances off of other players, where if multiple players have these cards in their discard piles, they can chain off of each other. Now, a great example of a gem would be this Atomized Ash, because this says whenever you gain this, gain 1 pulse token. So when you gain it, you're able to gain 1 of those pulse tokens, meaning that if you were playing with that spell that I mentioned earlier, this would be a way to power it up. Also, when you play it, you are able to gain 2 gems for purchasing, and it also has an ability Recall, which you are able to do from your discard pile, which is lose 1 pulse token to deal 1 damage. Now, another balancing act in the game is going to be your breaches. So as I said earlier, you have your different breaches, and that's how you're going to be casting spells. If you have an open breach, you're able to just prep a spell to that area, and on your next turn you can choose to have it go off or not. If you choose to cast it, you'll play it to your discard pile and apply the effects. But you also need to focus your closed breaches to be able to open them. And the further down you get, the ones that are more expensive, they also allow you to do extra damage. But if you do focus a breach on your turn, you are able to prep a spell. So that's a way for you to be able to prep some of the spells in your hand as you're building up towards these bigger turns, while you're trying to work toward opening your breaches as well to have them be more and more powerful. Now, if you do this, when it's your next turn, you have to cast them. It's not a choice if the breach is still closed, but it is a way for you to be able to play these spells a little bit sooner on your turns. Now to go over the enemy in the game, the enemy will have their own Nemesis deck that players are going to play through. So here you can see that there are already 2 different enemy minions in play. We have the Ferrous Beetle and the Vapor Wraith, and they're going to be affecting the players throughout the game. So this one is, when a player deals damage to this minion, reduce that damage by 1, minimum 1, and Persistent, any player suffers 2 damage. So Persistent is going to be an effect that happens turn over turn when it's activated, and when that happens, any player, which players will be able to choose, will have to suffer the damage. But the Vapor Wraith has, when a player deals damage to this minion, that player places a card from their hand on top of their deck. So that's going to be one that is going to start hurting your hand as opposed to your health or something like that, and putting cards on top of your deck. Now, their persistent ability is going to be Unleash, which is going to be unleashing the main nemesis. Now, this is normally going to be different abilities that will happen, but for example here you can see if regeneration is in play, the Terror and Brass gains 5 life, otherwise advance the World Splitter track. The World Splitter track is going to be this track here, which is going to have a whole bunch of bad things happen, where you can see it's dealing different damage and things like that. Now, players are going to have their own personal health that they have to worry about, but they also have Gravehold. Gravehold is going to be attacked, as you can see here on this track. It's going to be dealing damage to it, and you have to make sure that Gravehold never reaches 0. So you do start off with 30, and there's really no way to heal this or things like that. So once damage is done to it, you really have to feel the urgency to rush and do as much as you are able to do, because players only have so much damage that they are able to take on themselves, and then once they are not able to take damage, their damage is actually doubled when it's applied to Gravehold instead of themselves. So things just get worse and worse from there. Now, to take a look at the other Nemesis cards that could potentially come out, there are ones such as attacks. So this one is Inundate. Any player suffers 4 damage. That player gains 5 trinkets and places them on top of their deck. So trinkets are cards that I'm going to go over in a moment that are also available in this edition, but any player would suffer 4 damage, which again, the players are going to be able to at least choose who would be taking that damage. Now, other examples would be here another minion that would come out, Forge Fiend, who has Persistent. Remove 1 Nemesis token from the armor mat, which is going to be over here, which again I'll get to in a bit. Or the player with the lowest life suffers 2 damage. So that's one where players are going to be able to choose, when their ability is activated, which of the things they want to have as a consequence that happens. Another card would be Gravehold suffers 5 damage, so there's an example of where Gravehold will be suffering a whole lot of damage, or the players collectively discard 5 cards. So players could choose between all of the cards around all of them to discard. Now, that might not be that bad, especially as I said, if certain players were able to allow players to draw cards, so you are also hopefully able to mitigate certain things with the different asymmetric abilities that you have. Now to go over the Terror and Brass's armor mat. This is going to be things that players are trying to pay toward to be able to activate these abilities, but also make him vulnerable. So this particular nemesis, when you're playing against him, you're only able to deal 1 damage to him when you are attacking him until you are able to make him vulnerable by filling up his armor. So you would have to pay 3 for each of these abilities, but different players are able to do so. They'll gain the benefit when it happens, but once it is full, he will become vulnerable, and then players have a few turns to be able to attack him before the armor will then go away. But as you saw, that attack card had that go away just a little bit faster, making things harder for the players. Now, another thing is going to be these trinkets that players are going to be adding to their decks, and they're going to add certain things, but then they go back to the trinket deck. So this one, for example, is gain 1 gem. Any ally gains a gem token, which is going to be tokens that they are able to roll over for purchasing on future turns, and then return this to the bottom of the trinket deck. So they are going to cycle through. Another example would be any ally draws a card. So there are going to be things that are just light things that happen throughout the game, as you would imagine a trinket would, but certain things will add those into the player's decks as well. Aeon's End is going to be a very clever cooperative deck building game where players are going to be really invested in other players' turns. The fixed market allows players to hopefully overcome analysis paralysis, where you're able to see all of the cards available all of the time, really learn them, and be able to discuss them with other players. You're also never shuffling your discard pile, knowing exactly what you're going to be drawing, hopefully being able to combo up certain cards together and really strategically plan out exactly what you want to happen, because the random part of the game is going to be the initiative order and that deck that's going to be shuffled. As I said, the Nemesis turns are going to happen when you least expect them, and sometimes they can have quite a few turns in a row, but that would mean you would have quite a few player turns in a row, which can be very cool for you to experience as well. There's going to be an ebb and flow of the game because you're going to have these spells that you're casting and you're trying to open up your different breaches, so you're going to have turns where you're able to prepare your spells, and then future turns where you're very powerful, where you're casting them and then hopefully purchasing other things. But the main thing is that players are going to be working together against these different minions, the foes that are working against them. They're going to maybe sometimes have friends to help them, but you're all going to be working toward these nemesises that are attacking Gravehold, and honestly they usually seem pretty unbeatable. They're going to come at you with a whole lot of health and be very strong, but as you're able to develop your decks and really see what you're able to help with the other players around you as well, you're able to get stronger and stronger and hopefully able to make it throughout the day. Now you can check out the Gamefound link down below for everything that Indie Boards and Cards has planned for their current campaign. I've been Professor Meg. Thank you all for watching the Board Game Co channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye!